Chill here with Sirius, Tellus, Moon, Jupiter, our Mars day, and we are fractions of a second before the new moon. Moon is already 27 degrees Libra. Midheaven ruled by Mars and Ascendant ruled by Saturn. And it's interesting because midway into the previous video, I kind of received how a megalithic series of explosions happening, and now this is the Saturn-Neptune with Uranus-Sedna. And those explosions had to do with the classified projects. And that brought up something that is absolute value versus relative value. And what do I mean by that? There are certain things where to be relatively okay, for example, let's say, if I live in a house and I have food and the soil is organic and I can travel and I do something that I love and I make some money and I don't care that I don't own entire planet Earth, okay? I'm relatively fine. There could always be something is better, but I'm relatively okay, okay? So when people talk about usually financial freedom, usually that's what they mean. So for me to have, let's say, financial freedom, I don't need a mansion in, I don't know, Mar-a-Lago or stealth wealth in Monaco. I don't need that dumb fuckery. Okay? I'm not going to say, oh no, don't give me a mansion. Don't. Okay? But I also am not going to put my entire being into trying to work like, and also a part of financial freedom is how hard I have to work for that. Now, this is a value that is relative. Sovereignty is not a value that is relative. This is not, no. If I don't own, I don't know, a megalithic mansion in Monaco, I will probably not get a mental or physical health crisis. If there is an impediment on my sovereignty, I already am beginning to become sick, and to throw that ailment, okay, to purge that ailment, I have to assert my sovereignty and assert my boundaries until I'm sovereign, then I'm healthy. Now, there is also something about the structure here, and I talked about Libra, and I talked about the fact that in the beginning, there was difficulty with the jurisdiction system because they would give all types of Libra comment. Have you tried to change what you wear? Have you tried to change your presentation? Have you tried to change? Now, those things can create wonderful first impression, being representative, fitting the etiquette, to this, to that. That being said, they seem to not work when it comes to sexual boundary violation. Around sovereignty, towards the Saturn Neptune, we have kind of the same thing. If you try to comply with, adjust with, look a certain way, doesn't matter. Now here is the thing. A person in United States targets a person from Israel. We don't have the same context. Okay? For example, I wouldn't see, let's say, a person that, or why would a person be profiled by the police in United States because they lived in a certain neighborhood or because they have less or more melanin or whatnot, and how they would be treated differently. Okay, the most I would see is like police violence towards demonstrating people and Ethiopian people. But also, hey, Ethiopian men could let women have sovereignty. You know, the number one complaint of Ethiopian women, the men, they won't let a person even say yes to them because they don't even allow them to say no. I'm not saying all Ethiopian men here, okay? The youngsters, that was usually their complaint. Not all Ethiopian men, okay? But this is, if in the past people thought because a person looks weirdly, looks that they're being profiled, they were not being profiled to begin with. It was all a divide and conquer to begin with. The elite, they sacrifice their own bloodline, sometimes the first child. And even those that stay alive, sometimes they grow in a world where to kill and torture their best friend or their loved one is to do the right thing so that they wouldn't suffer living life. And they have to go outside and look normal. And this is where people would usually, how should I say that? There's certain trajectory, there's certain threshold. And if people cross certain threshold, the relative value is no longer. For example, before COVID, I lived in student apartment, one room apartment. I had my own shower and bathroom and small kitchen. I was like, amazing. I would never get more than that in Netherlands. Now, when I had to have 2 weeks, twice, not come out of the house, okay, in COVID, and I can't fool around because the neighbors are sitting downstairs and one of them is pregnant or one of them has a baby, I don't want it to, I say, okay, I need a bigger house. If I had a small house and a big yard, then I could go around my big yard. So the hidden blessing of that lockdown was, okay, having land and having a home that is my own space that I can retreat to is imperative in me being civil. Now, those that were gaming on people to be in some sort of sex trafficking, whatnot, after the Me Too, okay, like they had time to understand that the people that they try to sell that scam into, how should I say, they don't see sexual sovereignty as a relative value. And a lot of this new moon beginning is there are going to be clashes between the people that still think that something is a relative value and people that for them it's an absolute value. Now, when something is an absolute value, okay, those that try to challenge that absolute value, disrespecting that this is an absolute value, their values are relative. Now, for identity, people need sexual sovereignty. As simple as that. To regain sexual sovereignty, people need housing first, independent of ability to work for unlimited time, with a yard that they can go, airspace that is clear, water that is fresh and clear, food because they're 1,000 times more sensitive to everything, including frequency. So sovereignty becomes from relative value to absolute value. And those that try to conform them, okay, those people are not going to have not inner peace and definitely not peace on the outside, trying to make people conform to a certain thing that they have in their mind, depriving people of food, of housing, of whatnot. What do they think is going to happen? To their technologies that they use to try to oppress people. Now, bringing someone to position of helplessness is not lifelong, because it's way beyond lifelong. It's an eternity of trajectory. Okay, because there's an energetic timestamp where that entity crossed the threshold between relative value to absolute value. And anything that doesn't align with that absolute value is relative. The world can go extinct. And this is because the structure of the circumstances was putting certain people, and again, it's going to resonate with some. It's not going to resonate with everybody. But it was putting certain people through that threshold. Okay, for example, I describe a situation. I was in one room apartment. I had my own tiny bathroom, tiny shower, a tiny kitchen. And I was like, it's not a mansion, but hey, I have the freedom with the rest of the money, if I cannot dream about apartment, let's say, at least to develop skill, to try to grow my business. Now, nobody cares about the fact that people create wars on purpose and try to make people pay for the wars that they created on purpose. Okay? None of the people that were actually looking for viable solutions for peace cares about that. We care about the fact that wealth consolidation is done by torturing children and cloning children to be tortured. It's economicity, okay? Think about a person that lived in a one student apartment with a tiny shower, with a tiny bathroom, okay, with a tiny kitchen. He says, I'm okay. I'm going to develop my skill, my business, my this, my that. That's a person that addresses things. They wouldn't address having a bigger house, a bigger this, a bigger that, unnecessarily. There's a function. What is the function of that house? Do I have a family? Do I have kids? No. What is the function of that house? It's easier to clean a bit bigger house. Okay, now it makes sense. In case of, I don't know, lockdown, whatever, whatnot, then one needs a house and a yard that they can at least take a walk of a couple of kilometers. Functional. Now, if there are no lockdowns and no threat of lockdowns, okay, and people don't come up with biomedical warfare, then people can live in their own house, plot of land, maybe to grow crops or whatnot, and then they can walk around the neighborhood or whatnot, and, you know, walk their couple of kilometers back and forth and maintain their heart health. That becomes a relative value. But for those that had in mind that people are going to be living in prison-like cubicles and calling it 15-minute city and fighting over who has the money to buy apartment in that cubicles, okay? When anyway they are going to be bombing those 15-minute cities, that's the Saturn Neptune sextile Uranus. If you bring a society that doesn't honor, let's say, freedom of a woman, okay, into society where, and usually it would be like the elite is doing those dumb fuckery things, but common society, there are a lot of layers where it's absolutely not like that. And those society that are not seeing what the elite is doing, or the scene that the elite is doing, okay, those things, see all these societies, these people come from those countries, and they start mistreating women. Eventually, people are going to stop being politically correct about, well, we're going to deport those people. Fantastic. By the way, 1996, the White March. If we are doing cleansing, now here, sometimes people said, okay, we're tired of fighting. This is where, you know, think about it, this relationship. Think about when the wife is saying, I'm fine. You know that it's a Tsar Bomba that's on the way. Same with the people. How do you feel about your government? Well, I can't complain. 72 hours, Nepal parliament, poof, on fire. Then a Madagascar, then a Indonesia. What do you think? That it's only happened with nice melanin? It's gonna go up north. It doesn't only happen there. With the people in the rednecks with the ranches, okay? When they're coming for their dogs, they're coming with their guns. There are certain things you can do to people in Oregon that you can't do down south. I don't know, perhaps in some places there's the people that did that to other people, so when it's done to them, they kind of like, well, guess it's our turn now, let's see how can we try to connect with the people that, with the Nazis, maybe. Is there a place, is it time to immigrate to Argentina? Perhaps Ohio is kind of like an in-between. Anyway, people are not into a global surveillance state, is what I'm saying. Now, it is also the thing. Let's say an Asian person goes to United States to make more money. Willfully go, not a refugee, goes to United States to make more money. Okay? They know that there are certain things they're going to have to take into account. Because if they don't like it, they can say, okay, I can return to the previous country. What if they want to make a global regime? How do you feel about the world? I can't complain. The world will explode. And rightfully so. Now it's another thing. During COVID, when I did not have, food, then it would be no problem. I would put on a mask. Any business I had to put on a mask knew that they are giving me a gift for the price that I have to put on a mask. I don't put the business in trouble in the sense of like, with the fines and so on. No, but I take dividends. It would be food. Okay, there's nothing, maybe vitamins. The business knows if I go not putting on a mask and this and that, they have a fine. I have a smaller fine. They have the bigger fine. And I say, I'm not arguing with the business. I put on a mask, but I take dividends. I need vitamin C. I need to be healthy. I don't make business. I don't take a couple of things then sell them. No, for personal use. They want me to put on a mask. If I go without a mask, they pay more money. And this is how it goes. So it either is, now, this is where we're still in relative value. It's like, okay, they want me to put on a mask. We can negotiate. I will put on a mask and I will take something for me as dividend because, you know, I'm the person that can't go to work without putting on a mask, which is unhealthy, not compatible with neurodivergent people or people that go to trauma, even people that didn't go to trauma. All the time putting on a mask is not compatible. I don't work as a nurse in a hospital. And there's some people that have immune system failure. Fantastic. They need to have environment protected regardless of COVID. Yes? But for some people, it's not compatible to put on a mask. Both of us need to have access to housing, to food, to opportunities. Now, person wants me to pay for the water, excess money for the water, invented bill. I say, okay, maybe that person wanted to charge more money for apartment, but they didn't feel comfortable to tell me. All in all, it is okay. The addition and so all in all okay, but I will begin to dig half moons in the soil. Then we will solve the water problem collectively. If they don't come to extort me, they won't have a problem. If to begin with, that was to see if they could leverage something to try to see me as the product and not as the tenant, that will unravel and uncover that trajectory. Now, this is where the value is not relative, it's absolute. And those that rely on violating an absolute value absolutely must plan for sovereignty. Remember the father that sent his daughter to a Royal Military Academy? The daughter was raped. Then she took down a drug lord because she was used for espionage. She ran into the United States, the entire Soviet Union fell. That father is no longer a hero. His values were too old. He lost contact with his daughter because she was raped, thinking his daughter is a whore. Then his entire motherland fell. Rightfully so. It's his motherland that raped his daughter. And he cut contact with the daughter, not the motherland. So the motherland fell. A lot of things in this new moon are going to be around this. What people think is just a relative value for people is not, is absolute value. And when you try to violate people's sovereignty, if they don't have way to enforce the absolute value, they will negotiate, okay? Like this example. Put on a mask, put on a mask, put on a mask. They cannot even look for a job because they would have to put on a mask 8 hours. Even if I don't have trauma, a person develops trauma from that. You say, what about the nurses? What about this? Yes, it's big questions. Everything is sanitized, but they inject poison. When they will come clean, they'll tell us. Now, a lot of people around COVID is like, how did that go? Oh, we made the so-and-so money, so-and-so, we bought a half a land of United States, and so on and so forth. Amazing. How's life? We're probably going to prison. That's a good time to change the prison system. But you own half the land of United. Al Gore, he's the same story. It's Pluto in Aquarius. It's Pluto in Aquarius. And believe me, when it's those people, they prefer to go to prison for COVID. And what's absolute value is not going to turn to relative value. Trying to kill a generation, okay? And I'm not talking about the generation that's oppressing people. They tend to die by the masses even. But trying to kill off a generation because they ask to leave so that there will be forgetting, then the children will remember that they were orphans. And these orphanages are quite big. So they know that many children were orphans. I was born to third generation, to first, I'm third generation to Holocaust survivor, okay? I knew my grandfather, his brother, came out of the concentration camp, one from Italy, one from Germany. The guy from Germany got Shilumim. My grandfather got nothing. And when he tried to have business, people told him, the usual thing, too bad Hitler didn't finish the job. Why? Because he left the Holocaust and he was always around food. That's how he was saved. And he was looking more Irish. He was from Ukraine, Sarny. And so this is where people didn't want around a person that can survive a concentration camp when they're building on putting people in concentration camp. Everybody tells the other, yeah, you're going to be the master race and there's going to be a slave race that's gonna work and you're gonna make profit. Everybody told the same lie. And meanwhile, to be the master race, what do you need to do? To rape this child, put camera, to try to trade, to do rituals on your best friend, to try to put them into some sort of human trafficking, and to document the process, because otherwise you don't get the degree. And then you will have a simple wife. She's going to cook for you. She's going to this. If she's not going to poison you, she's going to divorce. And we forgot to tell you. First of all, bless your bone marrow. Rest in peace. Because all you did was you were corrupt to the bone. What were you expecting there? Now, bless your heart. Um, there's no such thing as master race. The way you treated others is the way you'll be treated upon retirement. Now, if I think about my own trajectory, upon retirement, I will have to tell whoever treats me, listen, I know it looks like you're going to work, you're going to make money, you're going to buy a house. Okay? But here are some things you need to make sure you can have always residence independent of ability to work, because the dumb fuckery that happens in the world is how I got to need you to take care of me in the of help me to cook or whatnot when I'm retired. Because I would invent a robot or something, and I just never thought that I would live to retirement. In my age, people were switching what can they do to unalive themselves. Where did you grow? Third world country? Not exactly. A villa in the jungle, they said. They called it back then. Two most valuable passports in the world. Yes, including the green card, because all Americans try to tax evade outside and denounce their American passport because it's a Catholic marriage to the taxes. Why not move to the other country? Well, the thing called BSN. You need to live in private sector to get public housing. They don't tell you you need to be an informant, so you could end up waiting decades. Those that are informant get shoved into the top of the list. They don't tell you that. They can't say it. And you need to stay in the country to wait for the public housing. Then they try to take away the public housing, but not give accessibility to buy a house. It's occupied, by the extortion codes. Now, on a global scale, people think that rights are something that is like a bargain that you haggle in the market. Not with Neptune in Aries, no. Haggling in the market is more like Pluto Virgo. Neptune in Aries is not the same. Neptune in Aries, people would go on a crusade over something that other people don't even understand. Now, it could be very significant, but until people will understand why did they care so much about that, a lot of people will go through a crisis of losing that, which was an absolute value to someone. And then we all had, okay, I mentioned COVID again. I was not the type of person I was like, if I live in a house, even when I was in between houses, the first time I walked to a hostel where they have about one bed, okay, and same price as rent, and I said, okay, I'm postponing the house question. I need a place to sleep, and then work on my business. Things as usual. Business as usual. Didn't work that way. Because what was a relative value for me was something that's actually not negotiable, but I did not understand that. Until I had to live with, I remember when we were in the Netherlands in the INO, a fantastic hostel. If I did not have this experience through COVID, I would be tempted to buy, okay, place in hostel. They say, okay, it's a room in three. I would say, no problem. All of us snoring. I sat down with the security. I said, this nice place, they treat us so nice. Breakfast in the morning. After afternoon, they have a warm meal. So lovely. And it's yes, and it's hostel that people come to vacay. Okay, this nice place. But we are three in the room snoring. I would never think. First of all, I did not know I snore. This now, when people are in stress, they usually all the things become more acute. So the snoring is louder. And I tell to him, I feel almost what to unalive myself. And it's like something so, and it's nothing to do with the fact that I'm homeless, because this place treats us so well that I could easily be on vacation and want to completely kill myself because I'm not sleeping. And if I sleep, nobody sleeps because I snore. Then we went towards a place where they transformed, called the Transformatorweg, okay, transformed a juvenile prison into shelter. The men there, I don't know how they managed because they all were sleeping in one room, all of them snoring. How do they expect a man to find a job later? I don't know. Fortunately, they didn't beat us. There was one guy that was a bit rude and they took him out, and then another guy, and I recorded something and said, break your bones, and turned the camera to him. He understood the message, he calmed down. Mars was in either Venus was in Capricorn or Mars was in Capricorn. The ministry of putting things on top of other things. How did it happen? Nothing. I was doing a doggy sitter, then it got cancelled. I found myself in between houses. Shelters in Israel non-existent. People threatened to hospitalize people and whatnot. So fucking scary. Then there's no solution for homelessness in Israel. Like you see Palestinians after Gaza, they're like, I can't believe we're going back to our land. Israel is like, what land? Israelis don't have land. It's very difficult for Israelis to relate to the olive tree. They never had that. It's like it's not a concentration camp. It's relatively not slavery. Okay, maybe I will develop a patent and sell it outside. I will make some money. It's a third world country that looks like a first world country. And this is why they vacate Thailand. That and the extortion calls with the children, it's true, because they have to get a degree. Now here's the thing. What about the people that managed to get the first degree and almost a second degree without raping anybody, let alone to cameras? Yes, you guessed it right, they're targeted individuals.